In this video, we're going to show you to install the steering rack bellows boot on your Toyota Camry located on your steering rack. Using our 21mm socket, we're going to loosen and remove the lug nuts. Remove the wheel and set it aside. Now that we have the wheel removed, we can go ahead and better access the outer tie rod here. So you can use your 19mm wrench or a large pair of pliers and want to go ahead and loosen this nut. Now this is just a jam nut. It's working as a locking nut. And you do want to make sure that it is spinning separately of the inner tie rod. And it is. So we're just going to back that off a few threads. Now I want to go ahead and loosen and remove this nut here on the top, our castle nut, but there's a cotter pin on the top, so we need to remove this first. Now we're just going to go ahead and bend this leg out here and straighten this out. Now you can use a pair of pliers to grab the eyelet on the other side. If you can't grab that, you can go ahead and tap this through a little bit. Sometimes we can get this to loosen. There it goes, it's working its way through. Now if you can get this cotter pin to come out the other side just a little bit, you can use a pair of cutting pliers. And what you do is you grab the head of it, you're gonna grab it, pinch, and just rock it back and use it as leverage. You're gonna pinch and pull, and work that out. Now cotter pins are a one-time use, so once you do remove this here, you can go ahead and throw it out. Now I want to go ahead and loosen this nut here for our outer tie rod ball joint. We're going to use an 11/16. Now we're able to loosen that. I'm not going to remove it all the way. I'm going to use the castle nut as a capture nut. So I'm going to thread that on just a few threads. Now I'm going to use my hammer and I'm going to whack the end here of our knuckle to go ahead and release the outer tie rod. You can see how that dropped down. You can now remove that. Now that we have our outer tie rod removed from the knuckle, we can now start to unthread it. Now before you start to spin this here, it's always good to have something to write down how many revolutions it takes to unthread this off of the inner tie rod. Once you have that, go ahead and remove it, and we're going to count the full revolution as one turn and continue to remove it until it separates. Roughly 12. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a crayon here and I'm going to write the 12 right here on the base of my strut. Now we're going to go ahead and remove our jam nut. It might be easy if you go ahead and spray this down with some rust penetrant or something to lubricate the threads. Now on the bellows boot here, we're going to use our pliers to pinch these tabs together and pull that clamp off. Now in order for us to remove our bellows boot, we do need to lift up our inner tie rod, and we need to look further on the inside. At the end of the bellows boot, there's going to be a clamp down here. It's a one-time use clamp, and you want to go ahead and pop that off. Now I'm going to use a screwdriver that has a notch in it here, and I like to put that right in there, and I'm going to give it a few whacks with the hammer to see if we can get that to pop off. There it is, it just released. So what we're going to do is we're going to reach in there, grab that clamp, and that goes right in the trash. Now what we want to do is grab this boot and want to try and pull it outward. Now sometimes it gets stuck right here. I'll go ahead and start to work this and pull that off. Set that aside. Let's go ahead and slide our bellows boot up and on. Now we're going to use a tie strap here to anchor that internal piece. I'm going to go ahead and get it started, run the tail through. I'm going to set that inside. Now, as you can see here, the bellows boot is quite a ways away from the steering rack, and the end is on the shaft where it needs to be. I'm going to go to the other side of the vehicle. I'm going to grab the wheel and I'm going to rotate it so it pulls that inner tie rod in. That's going to allow us to go ahead and seat that bellows boot a little more appropriately. I can slide that boot, work that onto the rack. And you do want to make sure that it is fully seated where it needs to go. So you can put your hand in there and check it. Make sure it is all the way on there. All right, now it's in position. Let's go ahead and position our tie strap. The tie strap should be on the inner band. I'm going to hold that with one hand and I'm going to snug the tie strap. Snug it right there. I'm going to use a pair of pliers to go ahead and get a little more tension on that strap, make sure it's nice and tight. And get a couple extra clicks out of it, which is perfect. I'm going to go in with our cutters. Cut off that pigtail. Now I'm going to go ahead and go to the other side again, and I'm going to crank this back out. You can see that the boot stretched out and it pretty much seated itself. We're now going to use another tie strap on the outside to secure that end. Just repeat the process as we did for the inside. Grab some pliers, make sure it's good and tight. Use a pair of cutters here and cut off the pigtail. I'm going to go ahead and thread our jam nut on. I'm going to grab our tie rod end and start to thread this on. We have a 12 count revolution to get that in. Let's see. All right, just caught right there. Now keep in mind that this is just going to set you up with a preliminary alignment setting. This will be enough to get you down to the alignment shop once this has been installed here. Now we can go ahead and install the outer tie rod end into the knuckle. Push that up and in. Go ahead and get the nut started. I'm going to go ahead and torque down our nut here to 36 foot-pounds. Now that we're torqued, you want to go ahead and pay attention to the hole in the ball joint stud and a notch on the castle nut itself. You need to make sure that the notch lines up with the hole for the cotter pin. Now, for any reason, if it does not line up, you continue to tighten the nut beyond your torque spec to the next opening on the castle nut. Never loosen it to make room for that cotter pin to fit in. Going to take your new cotter pin, see if this will fit. It doesn't want to go, so we're going to have to tighten it just a little bit more. There it is. Feed that through. When I feed my cotter pin through, I like to make sure that the piece I'm going to bend over is the longer tab. So when I feed this through, I'm going to make sure that that is facing upward. Push that through. I'm going to use my pliers here to grab that pigtail end and bend it up and over. And in most cases, you can use your finger, bend this over. I'm going to tap it down nice and flush. And then I'm going to use my cutters to cut off the excess. Watch your eyes. With this secured here, we now want to go ahead and tighten down our jam nut. Now I'm just going to use my wrench here to tighten this down. You do want to make sure that it's good and tight. You also want to pay attention to the outer tie rod here. You don't want this to be jammed up like this. I'm simply going to grab a pair of pliers and go ahead and rotate this down. We want this to be level, just like so. Now if you need to, you can go ahead and repeat this process for the passenger side. Install your wheels, go ahead and bring it down to your local alignment shop and get that taken care of. That's going to help prevent premature tire wear and component wear. Install the wheel. Let's go ahead and get all of our lug nuts started. Once we have them all started, we'll come on back and snug them down. Let's go ahead and snug them down. Do not over tighten. Let's now go ahead and torque down our lug nuts to 76 foot-pounds. I prefer to do this in a crisscross pattern. And you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.